So now we have created the reusable file. So moving forward, like if we need to execute in the various browser, so we can do the configuration in the config.property files. So that is what I told with the help of an Selenium. So we can execute the same script in various browser, which is nothing but we are doing the cross browser testing. So but there are few errors. So like we need to rectify this error with the help of the other Java concept. So because like as we have initialized the WebDriver, so now this particular WebDriver will be having the knowledge of Chrome driver or Edge driver or Safari driver, whatever it is. And post execution of this HUT before annotation, post executing this before annotation, obviously like we are going to execute the test steps. So which means it will execute this user enter the username and password. And here we are using the same WebDriver. Again, this WebDriver will have the null knowledge because we have initialized the WebDriver in a different class file. So we need to inject the knowledge of like WebDriver from one class to other class. So in order to inject, like we are going to use the another Java concept which we call it as an inheritance. Okay. So what is mean by inheritance? So inheritance is nothing but we are going to inherit the property of one class to another class. So which is nothing but we are going to use the knowledge of one class in another class. So for example, if there is a class called as an A, if the class A have the method called as an apple, I need to inject the knowledge of apple class in another class. So let's say, or we can say it is having some variable called as an int a is equal to 100. So I need to use this int a is equal to 100 in other class. So how we can achieve this easily in the sense, so we can inherit the respective class. So for example, I'm having another class called as an B. If I need to insert the knowledge of class A to the class B, then I should use the keyword called as an extends. And if I say extends of class A, so now what happened? This class B will get the knowledge of class A as well. So which is nothing but we are injecting the knowledge of one class to another class. So the process of injecting the knowledge of one class to other class, we technically called as an inheritance. And how we are achieving this inheritance in the sense with the help of the keyword called as an extends. So now we are going to inject the knowledge of one class to the other class. So like we are injecting the knowledge of the class A to the class B. So now if I have another class called as an class C, and if I use the keyword called as an extends of class B, so now this class C will have the knowledge of class B as well as class A, because like we have already inherited the knowledge of class A to the B, and if we inherit the class B to another class, now the class C will have the knowledge of the class A as well as the class B. Okay, so likewise we can achieve the inheritance, and we can't do in this way. So let's say like if I'm having another class called as an class D, I can't use comma, like I can't inject two class in a single class. So here I have injected the knowledge of class A, which means if I need to inject the knowledge of the class D, so what I need to do? So I should not like do in this way. So like extents of class A comma class D. So which we call it as an multiple inheritance. Okay, so there are different types of inheritance. So first one we call it as an multiple inheritance, and the Java won't support multiple inheritance. So like whenever we say, so the one class instance of the two class, which we call it as a multiple inheritance. So the Java won't support the multiple inheritance. Instead of the multiple inheritance, we will be using the inheritance called as an multi-level inheritance. So now how I can inject the um, knowledge of class A and D to the B in the sense I can say, so class D extends of class A and class B extends of class D. So now what happened? So the B will have the knowledge of A as well as D, which means like as it is having the knowledge of an multiple classes, we call it as an multi-level inheritance. Another thing, if I simply say class D extends of class A, it will have the knowledge of only one particular class. So which we call it as an single inheritance. Okay, so there are different types of inheritance. So one we call it as an like single inheritance, another we call it as an multi-level inheritance. So the single inheritance in the sense we are injecting the knowledge of one class to the other class, which we call it as a single inheritance. The multi-level inheritance in the sense a single class will have the knowledge of multiple inheritance. And apart from that, like we are having another inheritance like called as an hybrid inheritance, which means like if I say like class C extends of class B, now the class B will have the knowledge of like class A as well as D as well as B, which means the class C will have the knowledge of A, B, and B. So which we call it as an like a hierarchical or a hybrid level of inheritance. Okay, so there are different types of inheritance. So in which like as of now, like we are going to use the single inheritance, and how we are going to achieve the inheritance in the sense with the help of the keyword called as an extends. So we are going to inherit the knowledge of one class to the other class. So now I need to inject the knowledge of browser code to the my step definition. So how I'm going to achieve in the sense with the help of the inheritance. So now moving forward, we don't need this given statement. So either we can delete the given statement or let it be. And here initially, as we have done the browser invocation in the given statement, so we had this WebDriver as a global variable. Now even we don't need this global variable, but if I remove this global variable, for sure it will throw the error in the variable name called as a driver. But we are going to inject the knowledge of the driver to this particular class called as an Salesforce code. How I'm going to achieve in the sense with the help of the keyword called as an extends of, okay, so base code. So when I give the extents of the base code, so now the knowledge of one class is injected to the other class. So which means like we have inherited the knowledge of the one class to other class. So if the knowledge is inherited to one class to the other class, so now the error should be rectified, right? But we are getting the error in each and every line. So the reason is like, so here, like we have initialized this WebDriver as a global variable. So which means the global variable can be accessed across various methods. So which means like our whatever we have done is correct. But we are controlling the usage of the global variable. So you could see, so here it says usage is for usage, which means like I have used this particular driver in this line number 26, 30, 35, 42. So where I have used in the sense inside the same class, but we are going to access this global variable in different class as well. So if that is the case, then we need to use the another concept in Java called as an access modifier. So there are many access modifier available in Java. So we call it as an public, private, protected, and default. So we are having many access modifier. With the help of the access modifier, we are controlling the usage. So like whenever I create any method or any class, you have seen the keyword called as an public, which means this is nothing but we call it as an access modifier. So what is the need of this public access modifier? So let's take an example. Okay, here let's say we are having two packages called as an P1 and P2. The package can contain multiple classes. Let's say I'm having the class C1 and class C2 and class C3. So here I'm having some variable called as an int A. So if I need to use int A within the package, so let's say I'm planning to use this int A in the C1 class as well as in the C2 class, then we don't need to provide any access modifier. So whenever we don't provide any access modifier, which we call it as a default. So if you see our coding, so before the WebDriver, we doesn't specify any access modifier, which is nothing but it will act as a default access modifier. So this default access modifier can be accessible only within the same package. So if it is of a same package, so we can use the default access modifier. But when you are planning to use this int A in different package, so like rather than using in the same package, so if you are planning to use in the different package and in the different class file, then you should provide the access modifier as a public. So if it is of a public, we can use anywhere. So that is the reason like we always use the access modifier called as in public. So if it is of a public, it can be used anywhere, which means it can be used in the same packages as well as the different packages. But if it is of a default, it can be used only inside the same package. But if you see the WebDriver which we have provided here is kind of an default access modifier, which means we can use only inside this package called as an reusable. But if you need to use across different packages, then you should use the access modifier called as an public. So after adding the access modifier, now you could see the usage we are using in a 10 places, and as well as this particular base code is inherited. Okay, so we have inherited this base code as well as like we have this WebDriver in 10 places. If I click on the 10 usage, you could see, so like wherever we have used, so like we have used in the browser code as well as like we have used in the Salesforce code as well, it will provide us the suggestion.